and thanks for joining us on Dott TV Midday News. I am Ife Arono. Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborewori has taken a major step towards ending the 23-year abandonment of the Senate and Administrative Building at Delta State University Delsu Abraka, with invitation extended to qualified contractors to bid for the completion of the long-delayed project. The development follows the governor's earlier decision to revoke the previous contract for the project after expressing dissatisfaction over years of inactivity, paving the way for its reaward to a competent contractor capable of delivering the strategic university infrastructure. Governor Oborewori had, during the 17th convocation ceremony of Delsu, assured the university community that his administration would not allow the project to remain abandoned, promising immediate steps to ensure its completion. Fulfilling that promise, the Delta State Tenders Board has listed the completion of the Senate and Administrative Building among major projects advertised for competitive bidding under the Ministry of Higher Education. While the traditional leadership of Ole Kingdom in Isoko South local government area of Delta State has expressed concern over what it described as the absence of meaningful government presence in the community, despite its contributions to the state's development. The chiefs made their position known in an exclusive interview with Dott TV, highlighting the challenges facing the kingdom, including poor infrastructure, neglected public facilities, and the need for urgent government intervention to improve the living conditions of residents.
We are not satisfied considering what we give to the national economy. As you see here, we have no electricity. Even the roads that we have, they are feeder roads. They are seasonal roads. So I can rate the government 10% of development in Ole, if not below. We are the goods that produce the golden egg. But nothing to show at the end of the day. Nothing to show. I walk through the streets of Ole Kingdom, we show you that the government is oppressing us because we do not have long legs. If you go to places that do not produce oil, they are in heaven. So we have paradise, we have strangers, slaves in our paradise. They don't give us anything. Rather, they exploit from us.
The chiefs also appealed to the Delta State government and relevant authorities to restore electricity to the kingdom, lamenting that the community has remained in darkness for several years.
The government should give us electricity, gas turbine, not just the solar, the planks that we are putting on our roofs. They do not solve our needs.
Meanwhile, residents of Yahweh Street behind the Ayoben area in Abo, Ika South local government area of Delta State have raised the alarm over worsening erosion and flooding that have rendered parts of the community unsafe, forcing several families to abandon their homes. The residents are calling on the Delta State government to urgently intervene before the environmental crisis escalates into a humanitarian disaster. According to community members, Yahweh Street is located within a low-lying riverine area that has historically experienced seasonal flooding. However, they allege that the situation has become significantly worse following the construction of Ayoben Street, the major access road serving Yahweh Street and neighboring communities. They claimed that the newly constructed road altered the natural flow of storm water, diverting huge volumes of runoff into Yahweh Street, thereby accelerating erosion and flooding across the area. While elsewhere, heavy rainfall on Sunday caused widespread flooding across parts of Lagos and Ogun states, leaving many motorists and commuters stranded. The flooding cut off traffic, submerged roadside businesses and a filling station, and forced many commuters to abandon their journeys. It comes despite repeated warnings from the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, which recently listed Lagos, Ogun, and 25 other states as being at risk of flash floods during the peak of the rainy season. The agency attributed the threat to persistent rainfall and saturated soils, while the Lagos state government has continued to advise residents and flood-prone communities to relocate to safer areas. And now to Oyo State, where the State Fire Service has rescued a 6-month-old baby after a fire destroyed part of his residential building at Olomi compound in Obomosho North local government area of Oyo State. The fire broke out at about 8:38 p.m. on Saturday and was reportedly caused by an unattended gas leak on the ground floor of the one-story building. According to the special advisor to Governor Seyi Makinde on fire reform and chairman of the Fire Services Reform, Maruf Akiwande, firefighters responded swiftly after receiving a distress call and successfully contained the blaze, preventing it from spreading to the upper floor and nearby properties. The baby was rescued with no fatalities reported. And on education now, the federal government has approved an increase in the registration fees for the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, and the National Examinations Council, NECO, Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination, SSCE, raising the cost to 50,000 naira per candidate from 2027. The approval conveyed through the Federal Ministry of Education will see the NECO SSCE registration fee rise from 30,000 naira to 50,000 naira, while the WAEC fee will increase from 27,000 naira to the same amount, that's 50,000 naira. According to the information contained in a memo, the fee adjustment followed a policy decision reached during a meeting between the Minister of Education and examination bodies on March 31, 2026, where both WAEC and NECO were directed to adopt a uniform registration fee for their internal SSCE examinations. The new fee is expected to place additional financial pressure on several state governments that sponsor candidates for the examinations, with concerns that outstanding debts owed to both examination bodies could rise further. Meanwhile, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has criticized the federal government over the increase in WAEC and NECO fees for senior school certificate examination candidates to 50,000 naira beginning in 2027. Atiku, while accusing the federal government of making public education more expensive for Nigerians, described the hike in WAEC and NECO fees as cruel and economically insensitive, unquote. The former vice president, in a statement issued by his senior special assistant on public communication, Frank Shaibu, said the hike is fundamentally incompatible with the government's constitutional responsibility to make education accessible to every Nigerian child. He warned that increasing fees in federal unity colleges while imposing a significantly higher cost on WAEC and NECO examinations would disproportionately affect children from poor and middle-income families whose parents are already making impossible choices between food, healthcare, transportation, and education. And following last week's renomination of Vice President Kashim Shettima by the All Progressives Congress, APC, as the running mate to President Bola Tinubu for his second term bid in 2027, some groups and individual Nigerians have reacted to the development. A chieftain of the National Rescue Movement, Reverend Emmanuel Olorunmaba, has criticized the decision by President Bola Tinubu to retain Vice President Kashim Shettima as his running mate for the 2027 presidential election, describing it as a missed opportunity to promote national inclusion and unity. Also, the Middle Belt Forum expressed disappointment over President Bola Tinubu's decision to retain Vice President Kashim Shettima as his running mate for the 2027 presidential election, describing the move as a continuation of a Muslim-Muslim presidential ticket that it says fails to reflect Nigeria's religious and regional diversity. The Arewa Consultative Forum, however, said it is yet to take an official position on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's reported decision to retain Vice President Kashim Shettima as his running mate for the next presidential election. And on to Benue State, where at least 16 people have been killed in a fresh attack by suspected armed herders in Nobi community in Otupo local government area of Benue, triggering widespread protests and renewed concerns over insecurity in the state. The attackers reportedly invaded the community between 3 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. on Sunday, opening fire on residents and forcing many to flee. Several others sustained injuries, while an unspecified number of people were reported missing after the assault. The killing sparked protests by youths and women who blocked major roads leading into Otupo to demand urgent government intervention. In the meantime, the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has urged the federal government to intensify efforts to secure the release of Nigerians still being held by terrorists, bandits, and other criminal groups. CAN warned that the successful rescue of abducted school children and teachers in Oyo State should not overshadow the plight of thousands of other victims across the country. The association made the appeal on Sunday while reacting to the rescue of pupils, teachers, and other victims abducted from schools in Orire local government area of Oyo State after about 56 days in captivity. Despite celebrating the successful operation, CAN stressed that many Nigerian families were still living with the pain and uncertainty of having loved ones in captivity. Still ahead on the midday news on Dott TV. Woman uses 3-year-old son as cover to smuggle heroin into Abuja, and that's according to the NDLEA. Plus, foreign and sports stories, and that's coming after this time out. Do not go away.
In the heart of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dott TV News are your trusted window to stories that truly matter to the people. Here, we don't just report events, we tell the human stories behind them. Thanks for still being there. Now the rest of our stories. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has arrested a 38-year-old South African woman, Will Jessica Ann, for allegedly using her 3-year-old son as cover in an attempt to smuggle 5.75 kilograms of heroin into the country through the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi, in a statement, said operatives arrested the suspect on Monday, July 6, while screening passengers on a Qatar Airways flight from Doha. He said she was found with 14 blocks of heroin concealed in her luggage. According to the agency, the suspect initially denied traveling with checked-in bags. Still, operatives matched the baggage claim tags to her passport, after which she admitted ownership, saying she had forgotten she checked them in. Well, the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has instituted a suit against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, asking the Federal High Court in Abuja to compel the electoral body to investigate allegations that governors elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC, diverted about 800 billion naira in public funds for political and campaign purposes. The lawsuit filed last week seeks an order of mandamus directing INEC to investigate claims that APC governors made monthly contributions from their Federation Account Allocation Committee FAC allocations into a dedicated campaign fund allegedly intended to support President Bola Tinubu's re-election bid in the 2027 general election. SERAP is asking the court to compel INEC to request full disclosure from the APC and the affected governors on the alleged campaign fund, including the identities of donors and the lawful sources of the contributions. In other news now, United Kingdom-based Nigerian teenager Emmanuel Popola and his accomplice Tavern Etefia have been sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 28 years each for the murder of 18-year-old Keanu Haka in London. The pair were convicted after a 6-week trial at the Old Bailey for the June 2025 drive-by shooting in Anfield, which police said was sparked by comments made in a Snapchat group chat. According to the Metropolitan Police, Upuola armed himself with a pistol after becoming angered by the online comments, while Etefia assisted in tracking the victim on an electric bike before the fatal attack. After the shooting, Upuola fled to France but was later arrested in Paris and extradited to the United Kingdom, while Etefia was arrested at London's St. Pancras International Station as he attempted to travel to Paris. Well, for news on the international scene, let's now join Priscilla Ifeanyi.
A huge fire tore through a bar in Bangkok late on Sunday, killing at least 27 people and leaving 22 critically injured. The blaze started near the stage of the bar in the popular Chakri district, then spread rapidly, cutting power and engulfing the room with smoke. Footage posted online showed panicked customers screaming as they fled, some with their clothes on fire through the flame. Firefighters who arrived at the scene just after midnight quickly extinguished the fire. They found the bodies of most of the victims in the bathroom, where they had apparently sought shelter. Preliminary investigations by Bangkok's Disaster Mitigation Department suggest the fire could have been caused by an electrical short circuit in an air conditioner, though no official cause has been given.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation by the police department. But I think the fire brigade arrived within 5 minutes from the notification that the fire already spread quickly and a lot of smoke and flame. So I think we have to investigate what is the really cause of the casualties.
And in a related development, 2 firefighting planes have been rushed to the Paris region to tackle a large fire south of the French capital. The Fontainebleau forest blaze, described by officials as virulent and of exceptional scale, partially closed the country's main north-south highway, disrupting traffic through the first major weekend getaway of the summer. Early on Monday, officials said the fire had raged across 800 hectares and was still spreading in the forest, about 40 miles southeast of the city of Paris. The Paris region is suffering through its third heat wave this year, during a summer in which temperature records have broken in several countries across Europe. It was the first time firefighting planes had been set up from the normal drier and hotter south of the country to tackle fires in the Paris region. Elsewhere, at least 51 people have died and more than 1 million affected by the heavy rainfall in Bangladesh in recent days. Thousands have lost their homes as flash floods and landslides hit large parts of the country, including the capital, Dhaka. More than half of the deaths so far have occurred in Cox's Bazar, home to a large Rohingya refugee population. Bangladesh is a low-lying country that has many rivers and often sees heavy rain and floods during its annual monsoon season. But experts warn that the climate change has made rainfall more intense and more frequent. Finally, oil prices have jumped amid the latest outbreak of hostilities between the United States and Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. Brent crude, the main international benchmark, rose more than 4% on Monday as US and Iran started attacks amid their escalating standoff over control of the critical waterway. Brent future for September delivery stood at $78.82 per barrel as of 8 a.m., the highest since June 22. The US Central Command said on Sunday that it has carried out dozens of strikes on Iran to degrade its ability to attack vessels in the Strait, hours after striking hundreds of targets in the country. I am Priscilla Ifani, Dott TV News.
Away from the foreign scene, here is sports update with Anthony Uche.
We begin the sports news in football, where the last four of the ongoing FIFA World Cup have been decided. England defeated Norway by 2-1 to book a semi-final place, where they will come up against defending champions Argentina, who on their part defeated Switzerland by 3-1 after extra time on Saturday. On the opposite side of the draw, France and Spain will collide in the semi-finals after defeating Morocco and Belgium in the quarter-finals respectively. It will be France's second semi-final in as many tournaments and the first for Spain since they won the trophy in 2010. Now to some sad news, where Jadon Anthony, a South African footballer who participated in the ongoing FIFA World Cup, has died at the age of 25. The country's Football Players Union confirmed on Saturday. Jadon played 3 of his country's 4 matches at the tournament, and the cause of his death has not yet been disclosed. On the domestic scene, Al Kanemi Warriors defeated Ikorodu City FC in the final of the President's Federation Cup that was held at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba to wrap up the 2025-26 football calendar in Nigeria. The Zulum boys took the lead in the 20th minute when captain Rislanu Ismail converted from the spot, and they held off a lethargic Ikorodu City side for the 4th FA Cup success and the ticket to the CAF Confederations Cup for the next season. In the women's final, Chizoba Johnson opened the scoring for Heartland Queens early in the second half before Abobi Judith equalized for Nasarawa Amazons, who held their nerves to defeat Heartland Queens 7-6 on penalties after a 1-0 draw in regulation time. Now to tennis, where Yannick Sinner held off Alexander Zverev to win back-to-back Wimbledon men's singles title. The German second seed Zverev played confidently and boldly, taking the first set as he looked to back up his maiden Grand Slam victory at French Open last month, but Sinner gradually took control of an extremely tight contest to win 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, 6-4 at the All England Club, becoming the 10th man to retain the Wimbledon's trophy since the Open era began in 1968. In the Battle of the Czechs, Linda Noskova recovered from missing 5 championship points to beat Karolina Muchova in an extraordinary and dramatic Wimbledon final on Saturday. Noskova looked set for a routine victory when she led 6-2, 5-2, but she crumbled with the finishing line in sight as 10th seed Muchova won the next 5 games to force a decider. However, the 21-year-old showed remarkable resilience to reset and finally clinch a 6-2, 5-7, 6-3 victory in the first Wimbledon final between two Czechs. From the sports desk, Anthony Uche for Dott TV News.
Well, that's our package on Media News on Dott TV at this time. Thanks for joining us. Keep following us at official.tv. I am Ife Arono. Keep watching Dott TV, the heart of the matter.